Well, good evening. Welcome, everyone. My name is Patrick Sullivan, the Director of Housing and Community Development for the city. I welcome you here this evening for the first of two public hearings that we have to announce the availability of funding for our Community Development Block Grant Program. We greatly appreciate you taking time out of your schedules to be here tonight. It means a great deal to us. The public input that we receive from you is really critical to us making decisions on how we fund these programs. So thank you and welcome. We're going to have a brief overview of the program, talk a little bit about the application process. We're going to try and keep that as brief as possible, and then we want to turn the mic over to you to hear your thoughts and ideas, suggestions. That's what we're asking you to do tonight, and hopefully we'll get a lot of interaction with you all. Before we start with the program, though, I want to introduce a very important guest that's here tonight. We would like to welcome Mayor John Mitchell. We greatly appreciate him being with us this evening. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pat. Well, thank you for being here tonight. Let me just say a couple things. For those of you in the back, like Lydia, you know, this isn't church, so you don't have to fill in the back pews. You can come all the way to the front. Anyway, I thank you for being here tonight. The Community Development Block Grant Program is one of the real central programs that the federal government uses to help cities like ours, and it's been a very successful program for decades now, and it's allowed us in New Bedford to fund important programs ranging from the arts to social services to after-school programs to you name it, and it also allowed us to improve our parks, to improve city buildings, to build things like the cobblestone streets in downtown. It's a real shot in the arm that the federal government gives us every year. And what's critically important is that we engage in a public process to enable us, the city government, to figure out the best uses for that money. Now, you know, nowadays, the program isn't what it once was. It's been subject to cuts over, especially the last few years, that have really made those decisions difficult. Back in the 70s, New Bedford was getting as much as $13 million in CDBG money from the federal government, and that's why we could do things like cobblestone streets in the downtown area. $13 million in the 70s, down to about 2.6, 2.7 million now. Pat and Christina will tell you that it's going to be cut almost an additional 10% this year. So we have to tighten our belts, as we have been the last few years. So this is not news to anybody. We know that we've got to do more with less these days and do things more efficiently on the government side as well as on the nonprofit side, or among nonprofits that, you know, have also been squeezed in a very difficult financial climate. So, so that means it's very critical to get good information from all of you, from all of your organizations, and to really stand up and advocate for the funds that you've been getting and that you would like to get this year. What's important above all is really to show in as objective way as possible what you're going to be doing with the money, you know, how is it effective, whether it's funding something that's critical to your mission, and really give us a sense of that the money's being put to good use. All of your missions are very important, but of course we can't fund everybody as much as they'd like. So it really is a matter of your really telling your story and telling us why the money would be effectively used. So Pat and Christina have been doing this for a long time. They do a fantastic job in overseeing the program, and we're lucky as residents of the city of New Bedford to have you know, such talented and thoughtful people in charge of the program. They'll help you through the process, but You need to help us help you by participating, by giving us information. So that's all I have for you tonight. Notice that Henry Bousquet is here, Ward 3 Councilor. Just wanted to say hi. And he can tell you, too, that just how important the block grant program is to our city. Does anybody have any questions of me as we go forward? And I know Pat and Christina will give you the details of the program and the application process, but is there anything that you want to hear from me at all before we start in on the program? Not all at once, please. Okay. All right. You'll get all the information you need from these guys. They do a great job, and we're here to help. But just be mindful that obviously this year is going to be another tough year, and that we really have to just work a little bit harder and really tighten our belts. And but we in the long run will start to get through this very tough financial time, and I look forward to that brighter future with all of you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and greatly appreciate you being here tonight, and look forward to your leadership in helping to determine the best needs and the best use of these funds throughout the community. So what I'd like to do now is just introduce Christina Connolly from our office as the Community Development Coordinator, and way up in the back, you met him probably on the way in that made sure you signed the attendance sheet, is Joe Latch. Joe Latch is our Grants Compliance Manager, and both Christina and Joe do a fantastic job, and myself, Joe, Christina, and anyone on our staff are especially available during the next month during this application process to answer all your questions, no matter how big or small they are. So feel free to call anytime. Feel free to drop in our office, and Christina will talk a little bit about that right now, actually. Christina.
Good evening, everybody. So tonight, most of you have been through this drill before, so you know what the purpose of tonight's meeting is, which is to just give you an overview, a very broad overview of the CDBG, which is Community Development Block Grant Program, and ESG, which has a new name. It stands for new things now. Emergency Solutions Grant, not Emergency Shelter Grant anymore. So those are our two block grant programs for which there are RFPs available starting today. Last year's, and then Pat's going to go through some of last year's projects and outcomes, and we'll go through the actual RFP process and then take your comments and questions. So we are a city department. We are totally federally funded, but we are a department of New Bedford city government located at 608 Pleasant Street, and we have sort of a two-part mission, which you can read there. And the public input part of our mission is actually just as crucial as anything else we do, hence we're required by federal law to have these meetings, but we would have them anyway, and we consider them a very crucial part of our process. So we consult to get a sense of what the needs are in our community so that we can determine the best use of these very precious federal funds. And we do this we do this in two ways, every 5 years and then annually. So the 5-year, what's called consolidated plan, has been out since 2010. So we're in our this coming fiscal year will be the 3rd year of that plan. That's a more extensive public process which we engaged in 2009 leading into 2010. And then every year we consult on our annual action plan, which is sort of an update and of that 5-year process, but it works in concert with the 5-year plan. And the purpose of this meeting and phone calls and emails and other public meetings we have throughout the year that are project specific is just really to get your input, to hear your ideas, to hear your questions, and then we do that. For the 5-year plan, we do that through an extensive survey process and focus groups as well as these public meetings. So that's sort of what I was just talking about there. We do a priority needs assessment as part of the consolidated plan, and that gets, and that sort of is, those are our guiding principles as we develop each annual action plan. So, well, I talked about this. It's the consolidated plan is sort of like our master plan. It's our 5-year master plan. We're in our 3rd year. 2012 will be our 3rd year of that. And the major goals are to provide safe, decent, and affordable housing, a suitable living environment, and to expand economic opportunities. And the majority of these funds, by statute, have to go to persons who are considered low and moderate income, which by definition, by HUD definition, is persons making 80% or less of our area's median income. So the statute requires our 70% of our funds go to LMI persons. We're typically up around 95%, 90 to 95%. And again, where the plan comes from, I mentioned the surveys. We also use census data and now American Community Survey data. So the priority needs assessment looks at housing, public facilities and infrastructure, community services, economic development, and homelessness facilities and services. So I think we talked about this. The fiscal year is July 1 to June 30th. Okay, so this is sort of a good news, bad news story this year. Community Development Block Grant. This number up here, 2475248, is actually probably more accurate a number than we've had since I've been here. Because the budget process, this portion of the federal budget process that governs HUD has actually gone through and been signed by the president. So this is pretty much our number for 2012. This represents about a 9.5% cut over last year. And last year we had a 16% cut over the previous year. So this graphic shows you the pretty substantial decline from FY10, just FY10 to FY12. And that doesn't count, then FY09 and FY08, we had stimulus money. So if you consider that other $800,000 we had as part of our FY, that was 09, right, Pat? Huge hit. The good news is ESG, which is now the Emergency Solutions Grant, is considerably higher than it's ever been. So those of you who do homelessness programs, there's more money available for that. Okay, so how did we inform you? I think you've probably seen all of these things, the flyers. We send out emails to anybody who's ever expressed interest in CDBG and to our current subrecipients. We do radio, we send out press releases, we do the whole 9 to get the word out. Okay, so these are our major block grant programs. Community Development Block Grant, Emergency Solutions Grant, and Home Investment Partnership Program. The Home Program doesn't have an RFP process. That is sort of a rolling, those funds are distributed on sort of a rolling basis throughout the year. So CDBG is our major program, the most flexible and the most diverse of our federal block grant programs, whose purpose is to develop viable urban communities by providing decent housing and a suitable living environment, and by expanding economic opportunities. So these are the broad categories of things we do under CDBG: neighborhood revitalization, facilities and services, and economic development. And again, principally to serve persons at 80% at or below 80% of the area's median income. These are some things we cannot do with CDBG: fundraising, political activities, anything having to do with the general operation of municipal government, income payments, buildings used for the general conduct of government, and purchase of equipment, fixtures, etc. So these are some typical projects that we do under the various categories. We have infrastructure, streets and sidewalks. We consider parks and playgrounds more of public facilities, as well as buildings, public services, recreation, health, homelessness services could be under there, programs for youth and seniors, park improvements, housing and rehab, and economic development, which includes job creation, lending, as well as sort of physical improvements like storefront and facade improvement programs. So this is Emergency Solutions Grant. As I said, this is new. It used to be called the Emergency Shelter Grant Program, and it was really, I mean, you could do other activities with it, but it was primarily considered a program for shelter, to fund shelter operations and transitional housing operations. But there's going to be much more of a focus now with this program, and in fact a statutory requirement that a certain portion of the money is now used for homelessness prevention and rapid rehousing. And 40%, so that 40% of the funding now under this new program, unless you're in a hold harmless situation, meaning you're already spending, whatever level you're spending at already, you can continue to spend at least that much. But if not, then you're spending 40% on those activities and up to 60% on shelter operations. And home is, as you would suspect, it's all about affordable housing. Now this program took the biggest hit this year, 38%, Pat. So we are down 38% just from last year to this year with the home program. So that's about $758,000. Just last year we had 1.1. And at the peak of the program we had 1.4. So some of the things we do with home money, new construction, rental housing, we tend to do more rehab because of the type of housing stock and the type of community we are. And then we do, and we have a portion of the funding set aside for what are called CHODOs, Community Housing Development Organizations. And then we do first-time homebuyer programs as well with that money. So for typical home activities, the first-time homebuyers program, again, down payment and closing cost assistance, rehab assistance, and gap financing. We do larger rental projects, so some of the ones we've done in recent years where we have some home contribution in there are the Regency Towers, Temple Landing, formerly United Front, the Ingraham Place project down in the south end, Harborview Towers. So those are some of the larger projects we've done in recent years, and we've got Cliff Techs in the works right now, and in way back we did Whalers Cove and Whalers Place, also mill rehabs, transformation of mills into housing. So this is the part Pat's going to take over here and discuss some of the programs and outcomes from those programs for the previous fiscal year.
Thank you very much, Christina. I'll be very brief, but I think it's important this is mostly visual. We've got a couple of statistics in here, but we just wanted to briefly go over and let you know what we've done this past year with these programs. So roughly 18,000 city residents benefited from these activities this past year. It's quite a large number when you think about the amount of funding that we have. And it's quite remarkable that we touch that many folks in the community, and we're able to leverage a lot of funds. And through some of the folks here this evening, you do great work in helping us accomplish these statistics. 32 housing units were improved, and over 5,100 of the beneficiaries were very low income. So this kind of gives you a little idea of some of the public services. I know this is a category where probably the greatest number of folks under our program get funded. So we have about 31 public service activities in the community that we do fund, a little over $480,000 this past year. Quite a variety of different programs, educational programs for youth, the elderly, domestic violence. So it's a very diverse program and really meets the needs of the community. Economic development, assisting small businesses through direct lending to create jobs, through micro enterprises and also larger companies. So there's most of our economic development activities are carried out by the New Bedford Economic Development Council, who does a fantastic job in promoting the city and enticing businesses not only to stay here but to develop and grow. And these are some of the public improvement projects that very visible. Hazelwood Park, we put some new playground equipment there. We do street and sidewalk activity throughout the city in a variety of different areas. We have a large project ongoing up at Brookline Park. We've had a lot of public meetings this past year, and one of the facets of that was completed was the tennis court restoration. And we also do demolition of blighted buildings to help improve the neighborhoods. The Hillman Street Community Center, Andre McCoy Community Center, is a project that is about 99.9% completed. We just got a couple of finishing touches. It's a tremendous restoration of this building we've been working on for probably about 4 or 5 years to try to get all the funding, and it's just fantastic. Beautiful building, and we're glad we were able to preserve it. The YWCA, we provided some funding to restore the beautiful historic building that they house their programs in. Homeless programs in terms of emergency shelter, over $130,000 assisted 775 clients, and this is a small number of the 3 block grant programs that we have, but really meets a need that really helps people to not be homeless. Tremendous program, and serves a great need in the community. Supportive housing program is another program that we get that is not a block grant. That's something that we apply for on an annual basis, approximately $1.6 million. That provides predominantly rental subsidies to folks throughout the community, and over 70 individuals receive rental subsidies to be able to stay in affordable permanent housing. We also have almost 40 units of transitional housing. Then we had, as Christina mentioned, we had a couple of programs under the stimulus to address homelessness, and this is kind of the precursor to the Emergency Solution Grants program, and you can see by those numbers we were able to really serve some tremendous needs in the community over the last 2 years. And finally, under housing rehab, between our down payment closing cost assistance and our regular housing programs, we were able to assist a lot of folks in the community. Handicap accessibility program helps to do modifications to residences where people need handicap ramps or other associated assistance. And then we have a very active lead paint program also to help de-lead residential units. And you can kind of see this is predominantly properties that we've kind of concentrated down in the South Central neighborhood. These were foreclosed, abandoned, boarded, blighted properties that we went in and worked with a couple of nonprofits and completely renovated them, and they were subsequently sold to first-time home buyers. So really made a tremendous difference in that neighborhood, but also provided some great housing. All these houses were built prior to 1880, historic, marble mantles, just absolutely gorgeous. So it's really a labor of love in renovating them. And Christina had mentioned these larger projects that have really produced over $100 million of investment in New Bedford in the last 2 years through construction jobs. Major impact on the community. Some were vacant buildings, others were partially occupied and really at risk of being totally abandoned. So we had some for-profit developers come in the case of Ingraham Place at the right, a nonprofit developer that really transformed these properties. So our home dollars leveraged pieces of this, but that was an important piece to help the financing. And that's it. I'm going to turn it back over to Christina. She's just going to briefly talk a little bit about the RFP process, just a couple of slides, and then we really want to hear from you all.
Okay, so tonight marks the first night that the RFPs are available. You probably saw the hard copy RFPs out front with Joe, but then we'll also have them online. They'll be fillable, savable PDFs, so there'll be a link to those from our website. So I'm not sure. I just tried that link today, and it seems it redirects you. But if you just go to the city's main page and then go under offices and go to community development, you'll see them right there on our home page. And maybe we can get the city to put a link right from the city's front page to them as well. That probably shouldn't be a problem. So it's easier to navigate. So those will be available CDBG should be available tomorrow, and I believe ESG will be available tomorrow in that fillable electronic format. But we do accept good old, old-fashioned paper applications as well, as long as they're legible. So, and then very important, the technical assistance workshop for both CDBG and ESG are Friday the 13th. 9 a.m. for CDBG and 10 for ESG. We separated them out because of all the new stuff going on with ESG. So we strongly recommend these workshops, particularly if you're a new applicant. And for ESG, even if you're a returning applicant this year, it's pretty crucial that you come to this one because there's just a lot of new stuff going on, and the RFP itself has been much changed since last year. So again, I think that link is going to redirect you to the city's front page, so we'll figure that out and we'll make it as easy as possible for you to get your hands on those RFPs. And there's another plug for the TA workshop. And then there's another meeting tomorrow. So if you know your colleagues in the nonprofit community or anybody else, citizens out there in the community whom you know that couldn't make tonight's meeting, we have another one tomorrow at our office, which is on top of the Art Museum at 608 Pleasant Street. And this is just a little rundown of the general calendar, how things proceed. You'll see that the next big thing for you guys is the deadline, February 10th at noon for the RFPs for both programs. Then we'll have to have our draft action plan done on March 12th. There's a 30-day comment period. It'll be out for comment for 30 days, and then we'll submit it to the City Council for their approval in April, mid-April, and then finalize it and send it off to HUD at the end of April, and then the fiscal year will begin July 1st. You all will get approvals around May or June, approvals and or denial notices in sort of May, June timeframe. So this is the point where we open it up for questions, comments, and suggestions. Truly, we want to hear from you about ideas you have for programs we're already doing, maybe how they can be improved, or new things that we're not doing, needs you're seeing emerge in the community that perhaps aren't being met fully at the moment. So we'd just like to hear from you. And if you could, if you have a question, raise your hand. I'll actually run the mic over to you so that they can hear you on TV as well.
Hi, Deb from Artworks. This is a question for you, Christina. I tried to find the consolidated plan on the website, and every time I went to the City of New Bedford website, my computer would crash. It would freeze. So I couldn't get anywhere, and I saw the OHCD on the side flipping, and nothing would happen. I had to, take down my computer. But where's the consolidated plan? Where do I go?
It's in the same place, so all the documents are sort of housed from our front. All the documents related to our office, there are links to them on our page. So you have to go from the city's home page to, under city offices, it says community development, and then you get to our page and it'll have, there's a menu at the top and it will say resources, I think. But if you have trouble, please call us and we can either get you a hard copy or email you a PDF, okay? Anybody else? Richard?
We've been recipients in the past of the grant. My question is, we're located, our after-school program on Linden Street, and I wanted to know, because we have programs at Ingraham Place, could North Star Learning Centers apply for 2 locations?
That's a great question. Yes, the programs can be, even if they're similar but serving different populations and at different locations, that would be an eligible application, absolutely. Anybody else? Corinne.
Hi, I'm Corinne Williams from the Community Economic Development Center, and I understand that there's some programming available. We've recently moved to the north end of the city to Acushnet Avenue, and we work with a lot of the small businesses that are there. And just wondering about the programs that community development offers to some of the small businesses for facade improvement and that sort of thing.
Okay, so we have a couple of options available for small businesses who want to do physical improvements to their buildings. We have a small $2,000 reimbursement grant, a storefront reimbursement grant, which can pay for materials only, and you have to get design approval, so you come in and apply prior to doing any work. You work with our design people, and we approve if it's awnings, if it's new plate glass windows, if it's signage, and then you get some competitive quotes from contractors, and then you get the contractor to do it, pay for it, and then we reimburse up to 50% of the cost of materials up to $2,000. It's a terrific program, really easy. We do a ton of those. It's a really simple application process and a really quick turnaround. We also have a larger, now this relates to Corinne's area, we have a larger facade improvement program that's dedicated to the Acushnet Avenue commercial corridor. So that's up to $15,000 of physical improvements. That can include labor as well as materials, and there's a 25% match requirement on that from the business or from the building owner. So that's a great program that actually is sort of underutilized at the moment, so we'd love to have anybody who's involved up in the Acushnet Avenue retail area to get the word out about that project, or that program. We actually haven't done a project yet, and it's a resource that's sitting out there to beautify and improve the avenue, so we'd love to get some action on that. Did you want to add anything, Pat? No. No? Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I think Pat maybe want to say just some parting words. And
thank you very much, Christina, and thank all of you for being here. Greatly appreciate your involvement this evening. As I said, we're a resource for any questions that you have. It's kind of unique in that our office will sit down with you, go through the application. The technical workshop will actually go through the application page by page and give you some guidance on how to complete that. Usually isn't the case with a lot of funding sources that you apply for, but we're here to try to help you. We'd love to fund every application. As Mayor Mitchell stated, we have some really challenging decision-making this year because of the reduction in funding, and I think it's going to be challenging, but I encourage everyone to apply. Spend a little more time this year to really demonstrate the effectiveness of your programs if you're a returning applicant. But feel free to contact any of us at any point during this whole application process. We're here to help you, and we wish you all the best. We thank all of you for your contributions to the community and the programs and services that you provide, and for the fact that you're here tonight, interested in the program and learning more about it. We greatly appreciate that. So thank you all for being here. Have a great evening, and we'll talk to you soon.